Good evening. A BC man is using a longboard to make a very long trip. Kyle Gallagher has the story.
James Osmond is traveling across the country in support of prostate cancer and made a stop in the border city. After watching his grandfather lose his battle to the disease, Osmond decided to make the journey in his honor.
He was definitely a big influence in my life. I spent most of my time growing up on the farm with him. We did everything by hand, you know. It was hard work, but it was worth it, you know, spending the time with your family. And I just want to, you know, do something to commemorate him and honor his memory.
Osmond is hoping to raise $25,000 on his cross-country trek and wants to get a simple message across to anyone that will listen.
So I'm out here trying to raise awareness and let people know that you need to get out there and get tested. If you're over the age of 40, you need to get tested. And if you have a history of it in your family, you're better off to get tested beforehand.
One of the best parts of the journey so far for Osmond has been experiencing everything Canada has to offer.
Honestly, just going province to province, even town to town, the difference in people, the way that they act, their mannerisms, everything is just, it's so cool just to see how diverse Canada really is.
If you'd like to donate, you can visit his website at thebigpush2013.ca. There's a link to the Canadian Cancer Society right on the site, as well as all of the social media network information.
We can beat prostate cancer. It's not a death sentence. It's definitely a very curable disease as long as it's caught in time.
Kyle Gallagher, Newcap News.
The Chuckwagon Races have been a big draw around the border city and area, but there's another sport for cowboys and girls, and it involves horsebacks and revolvers. Graham McCann has more.
Chuckwagons may go back to the era of the Wild West, but the sport of mounted shooting takes you as close to being in the classic Western movies as you can get. Horse, hat, 6-shooters and all.
We all grew up as kids in our era wanting to pull a 6-gun and shoot something, which with our gun laws, that's not quite the way it works. But now with mounted shooting, I have all my proper permits to carry my revolvers. They're authentic. They're brand new, but they're the exact replica of the 1873 Peacemakers that win the West.
Although, for the safety of everyone involved, the guns don't use bullets. Instead, they use theatrical blanks. However, they do pose a risk for injury.
They shoot a black powder projectile, and the powder burns, and that's what actually burns the balloon and bursts it. It's good for about 20-22 feet, so it's still spectator friendly, but yet could harm you if shot at close distance, for sure.
The aim of the game is to ride as fast as you can and shoot every balloon without a miss. And if you've ever gone to a stationary shooting range, imagine trying to aim at targets while racing on horseback.
Definitely some hand-eye coordination and some timing, and you know, you hope your horse runs good and runs straight.
But don't let that intimidate you, because this is a sport for everyone, from the young to the young at heart.
Anybody can do it. I mean, I have a 9-year-old daughter, she shoots. They just shoot cap guns or water pistols. I also have a 68-year-old uncle, or he's 69 now. Last year we put him in a clinic and he took up mounted shooting for the first time.
We've got oil executives, we got doctors, we got vets, we got our shooting group is just unlimited for the people.
In fact, McMillan is going to be celebrating his 65th birthday and is going to make a day out of riding and shooting with his family and friends. His age hasn't slowed him down, as he won a saddle in the competition last year and organizes events year-round, going throughout North America.
Almost a full-time job. It's no place to have a bunch of cows and be farming, but so what? I'm too young to retire.
Graham McCann, Newcap News.
Some new exotic neighbors are calling our area home. The Border City Petting Zoo moved in a couple of endangered lemurs this week to add to their expanding collection. Bart Pinyasa got up close and personal with the new additions.
We got the lemurs on Tuesday. Yeah, they come from another zoo in Alberta, so they're Canadian.
Curious, playful, and energetic. These two girls aren't the usual animals you see around the Border City. It was about a year before the zoo was able to welcome them to their new home.
They're like any other exotic animal. You got to apply to the government and build the enclosure and your cage and stuff like that, and make sure everything is up to par.
And while they're already getting comfortable with Saskatchewan living, there's some parts they're still getting used to.
We just introduced them actually yesterday to the cage here, so they're getting used to the place and kind of getting familiar with their surroundings and the noises, the train and the lions roaring and stuff like that.
And for families thinking of coming out, zoo officials say the lemurs are quite a sight to see.
They're quite affectionate. They like jumping and looking on things and jumping on your shoulders and stuff like that. They're kind of a cool monkey to have.
And these two won't be alone for long. The zoo hopes to add a new male one day soon, so they can help this endangered species breed. Bart Pediasic, Newcap News.
Well, Colonial Days wrap up tonight, but last night was the final day for the Chuckwagon Races.
Yeah, it was the exciting time, the big dash for cash. Roger Moore, Chris Moley, and Dave Galloway went at it with 1,500 big ones on the line. And they're off. Moore and Moley, both with great starts. They turned hard on the barrels, and it's 007 Roger Moore who grabs the inside rail heading into turn number 1 with Moley right beside him and Galloway not too far behind. Now heading into the third turn, Moore with about a 3/4 of a wagon lead on Moley, and again Galloway still sticking with him, not far behind. Now coming into the home stretch, Moore still holding on a lead. Moley presses a little bit, but Moore actually starts to pull away at the end. He's going to cross the finish line first with a time of 1:17.37. He's the Colonial Days Dash for Cash winner. He also wins the day money. He says he was in the zone all event long.
Well, my mindset is to win all the time. Like, as soon as I start throwing harness, I get into this little kind of a zone there and kind of just in my own little dream world and focus on what I have to do. Lots of times I've run that, like last night, I've run this race in my mind 20 times already. It's just little things, that you can do different to try and get an edge on somebody.
And over in Calgary for the GMC Rangeland Derby results from last night. After being booted to second, Jason Glass is back on top. His total race time now sits at 9:48.09. Rick Frazier is in second, just 0.6 of a second behind Glass. Rounding up the top 5 are Chance Vegan, Kirk Sutherland, and Jamie Bremner. Jamie Labuchan's outfit holding on to 8th spot, and he will get to compete in this weekend's semifinals. The Extreme were in Cold Lake for a rare Friday night game in the Rocky Mountain Lacrosse League. The Extreme had the sticks working last night. They have one of their biggest offensive outbursts of the season, putting 17 up on the board against the Heat. I had a little chat with Scott McAllister after the game last night, and he says it was a complete team effort with good contributions from the entire lineup. The Heat have now lost 5 games in a row, while the Extreme will look to keep the offense going when they visit the Sherwood Park Titans tomorrow to wrap up the regular season. And in the NSRBL last night, the Lloydminster Midgets hoped to end the season on a positive note as they took on the North Battleford Beavers. They really put in the effort, but fall 4-3 in a close one. This one needed extras and went 10 innings with the Beavers coming out on top. With the win, North Battleford leapfrogs the Midwest Expos for 6th place in the NSRBL. This evening, the Meadow Lake Sox and Lloydminster Twins play a game that could have a big impact on the standings. Now, the game tonight is the second last game of the regular season. The final game will be played Tuesday as the Twins take on the Midwest Expos. The playoffs get underway on Wednesday. The top 8 teams in the league will make the dance, with 1 playing 8, 2 playing 7, 3 playing 6, and 4 playing 5. The 8 teams are pretty much set, but there could still be a little jockeying for position depending on how these last 2 games go. There's just a few games left in the rugby season. Today, the Women's Reapers rugby team traveled to Regina to face the Corinne. And as was the case the last few times these teams have met, the Corinne come away with the win. 35-15 is the end result. The Reapers started the game with 9 players, but a dislocated shoulder forced one to leave the game. So the ladies played the rest of the matchup with 8 players, and the 2 teams actually agreed to play by 7's rules. Next weekend, the women are off to Saskatoon to play the Wild Oats. Bluntly put, the Vandals season has been a bit of a disaster. The team is now 1-4 and has been blown out on multiple occasions. There is a silver lining, though. They still have a shot at the playoffs. Tonight, they welcome the undefeated Calgary Gators to the Border City. Calgary is having a great season and is 4-0 for the first time since 2007. Now, a win would go a long way in securing a final playoff spot in the AFL for the Vandals. 6 of the 7 teams make the playoffs, and the Vandals currently sit 6th. The game got underway at 7, and from what my sources have told me, the unofficial score at this point is 27-0 for Calgary.